Hi, Herman Vasquez, co-founder of Raza Roundtable and board member of the executive board.
I'm Tara Martin Milius. I'm Sunnyvale City Council.
El Villalobos, retired probation department and member and former commander of the San Jose GI Forum.
Richard Santos, Director, Santa Clara Valley Water District.
Mark Espinoza, Viso resident and president of OCA.
Jose Rocha, Labor's Local 270.
Leticia Rocha from Santa Clara Valley Water District.
Dulce Ramirez here representing Vice Mayor Rose Herrera.
Denise Bolano, owner of Evergreen Coffee Company in Evergreen Village Square.
Mayra Garcia with the Enlace program at Evergreen Valley College.
Kimberly Tapia, treasurer of the Enlace Student Association.
Jose Salcido from the office of Johnny Camas, District 10.
Darby Meehan, American communicator.
Jenny Meehan on the executive board of Raza Roundtable, board member San Jose Evergreen Community College District, and SBDC business advisor.
Frank Beal, trustee, Eastside Union High School District.
Sam Hill with San Jose Evergreen Community College.
Rose Amber, Conexión to Community, and on the Chiefs Advisory Board.
Albert Morales, El Salvador Foundation, and member of the San Jose Independent Police Office.
Betty Morales, El Salvador Foundation.
Charlie Wasser, chairman, membership chair and outreach chair for the Rotary Club of San Jose East.
Craig Pasqua, Executive Committee, La Raza Roundtable.
Patty Cortese, trustee, Eastside Union High School District.
Barry Dole, to the Saigon San Jose Power District, also a member of Chief Advisory Board.
Tiffany Hall, member of the CAP, the Advisory Board for the San Jose PD, Chief. Also medical director, behavioral health for the county.
Chris Clark, District 5 United.
Deb Davis, candidate for San Jose City Council District 6.
Kenya Edison, Director of Student Services for Eastside.
Monica Amador, board member of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Silicon Valley, and La Raza Roundtable and Enterprise Foundation.
Moreno, just a visitor.
Maggie Madueño, Community Outreach for the Lupus Foundation of Northern California.
Teresa Padilla, Community.
Danny Garza, Chapter Chair for MAPA, the Mexican American Political Association.
Robert Aguirre, representative of homeless and a real nice guy.
Eddie Garcia, Assistant Chief, and I'm a nice guy as well.
The nice guy road.
Tony Mata with the San Jose Police Department.
Bill Britton with Solar City and a partner with Conexión to Community.
Isaac Pichardo, Executive Director of the Santa Clara County Republican Party.
Bob Nunez, Co-Chair of La Raza Roundtable, Board of Trustee, Milpitas Unified School District, and Chair of the Republican Party, Santa Clara County.
John Alvarez, Pacific Fundraising, helping local schools and nonprofit groups raise their funds.
Hi, Joe Melendez from Liquid Restaurant and Lounge.
Phoebe Menendez from Liquid Restaurant and Lounge.
Dave Cortese, President, Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors.
So I have the pleasure of introducing, quite frankly, someone that I consider a mentor and that's meant a lot to this organization in the city. So I'm going to start off with something that I know he hates hearing all the time, and it's basically what he's done in his career, which I think is a very important way to start. So the chief was hired as a police reserve back in 1984. I was in 8th grade at that time. And he was appointed to officer in 1986. I was a sophomore. As an officer, he worked in the Bureau of Field Operations Patrol, Narcotics Enforcement Team, MERGE, Bureau of Investigations, Narcotics Covert Investigations. He was promoted to sergeant on June 15, 1997, and as a sergeant, he supervised patrol officers and served as a supervisor in BFO, patrol, field training program, special operations, merge unit, main lobby, in the robbery unit. He was promoted lieutenant on December 18, 2005, where he served again in Bureau of Field Operations, patrol, the administrative unit, and the Office of the Chief, Internal Affairs. He was promoted to captain on July 11th, 2010, and served in BFO as a Foothill Division commander. He assumed the acting role of acting deputy chief in the Bureau of Investigations on August 22nd, 2011. And on December of 2011, he was assigned as commander of the Bureau of Field Operations Patrol. On February 5th, 2012, he was promoted to deputy chief. On January 18th, 2013, he was assumed the role of acting chief of police upon the retirement of former Chief Chris Moore. And he was officially confirmed as chief of police on December 10th, 2013. You know, I say that, you know, as a start off, but really, to know the chief, or, you know, is one of the things where, you know, as all you know, he's going to Tracy, and when his backgrounder had a conversation with me the other day, and he says, well, you know, what's the one thing that you can tell people at Tracy about the chief? And I said, well, you can warn them that this is not a retirement job for him. If they think that they're getting the chief that's done 30 years, that's looking for a community to just settle down and just sit there, they're mistaken. If he can fix that place in any way he can, he's going to do that. You know, you cannot outwork the man. I mean, you say that and it's almost cliche, but you can't outwork him. He literally is the first one in the office and the last one to leave. It's tough not to follow a guy like that. That tells, you know, he toes the line and he wants things done a certain way. And you sit back and you look at his work ethic after 30 years, and it's just amazing how the energy that he has. You know, I feel so privileged to have worked for him. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's almost coming up on 3 years, I think, since the day that he asked me and gave me the honor to be his assistant chief. And, you know, coming in the interim role and hopefully longer, when he steps down and retires, I feel like he's kind of handed me that book that we all are lucky to hopefully to have, when you get that used book in high school, your junior year, and you're like, you open it, and the notes are in there, all written out, and it's highlighted, because it truly has given me and given us all the playbook of community relations and what that means. And why that's important to all of us really is because to understand what Larry is, I mean, he's a cop. He's a cop. He came on this department to get the bad guy. And he has so much credibility with the troops, because that's, when people get on the force, that's what you want to do. It's till later on that you understand that there's more to police work than getting the bad guy. But, you know, it almost seems that the chief, his entire career, has really been so involved with the community. But, you know, I know for a fact in all the proactive units that he was in, he wasn't. And it came so naturally to him. And really set an example to all of us. I mean, he's got a legacy here. You know, I know we just passed AB 953 as an example. You know, collecting the data on stops. Well, the interesting thing is other departments are going to be scurrying around trying to figure out what to do. Under Chief Esquivel's leadership, we know what to do. We've started that already. You know, so the body-worn cameras. You know, I remember having a conversation in his office, and we said, "Hey, body-worn camera." We talked about, hey, body-worn cameras are coming. So why don't we take the leadership role in dictating how we, you know, to do this before someone tells us how to do it? And he saw that was coming, and we did that as well. So again, you know, he was such a great partner. I mean, it was, you know, every meeting we went to, we were always, you know, lockstep together, always saw eye to eye on those things. And when we didn't, I would say, yes, sir, great idea. But you know, it's funny because the interesting thing is similar to what happened today, right? We would go to these meetings, community meetings, and I'd be all excited. I'm the assistant chief. I'm going with the chief, and they'd be like, "Hey, chief, you know, you're at this front table here. What were you, Eddie Garcia? Yeah, you're in the back with the little kids. You're at the little kid table." Kind of what happened tonight. You get some, it's similar, so I'm used to it. No, but in all seriousness, tough act to follow, really is. Really just to match that work ethic. I don't know how he continues to do it. Tracy is an absolute, I mean, that place is gonna, if it can get improved, I guarantee you it's gonna get improved. That community is going to love its chief, and it was an honor being his assistant chief, and he taught me a lot. So I'd like to introduce Chief Larry Esquivel.
Well, thank you. That was actually a good introduction. Thank you. Wow. I'm going to have to save that. And he is truly my right-hand man. And I picked him because of his qualities. I think we complement each other in our styles. We're a little different, but yet he's very confident in what he does. He's going to do a great job as a chief. I just want to thank Victor and La Raza for having me not only on a regular basis, but to honor me. And you see my picture of it still in front there. Man, I forgot to bring it this year. I was looking for my little stash. I couldn't find it because it would take me forever to grow one. Let me just, and I kind of, and I'll try to keep it short, but I mean, a couple things I do want to say. And you know, my life has been pretty public the last few years, unfortunately, and even though I'm a very private person, but you know, these things are important in terms of these meetings and the partnerships and what we mean to the community, and you know, providing resources and outreach and different things that La Raza does on a regular basis. And those of you that volunteer, I mean, that's a big part of what we do, because we do have youth in here quite often, and you know, it's important for us to be those, to Patty's point, those mentors with her program or programs like that, because they need someone to be that role model for them. And you know, we have the students, a lot of them here from River Buena that come here, and just the other local high schools. That's important to showcase what they do and have them come up here and talk about it so we can listen and understand and feel good about what they do. Because when I was growing up, you know, I didn't have both my parents at the house, and you know, some of us that aren't fortunate enough to have that, you know, and there's a lot of kids, especially on the east side, especially, you know, kids of color, don't have the opportunity and luxury to do that. So, you know, what we can do to provide mentorship for them is a big deal. And I think for me, because I did close my eyes when Patty was talking, I did think about, you know, who was that person or who were those people for me growing up? And it kind of reinforces those people in my life that were important for me and decisions I made. Because I think when I was in high school, and you know, some of the things, for example, and I'll mention real quick, for example, Eddie, his kids, well, they're star athletes, but you know, the things that he does for them, even though his capacity, his commitment and responsibilities that he has is, I mean, it's 24 hours a day. I mean, we're married to our phones because we always have to be ready to go back to work. But yet he finds the time to still really be there for his kids. Matter of fact, he's getting ready to go to a playoff game here shortly for his son, who's a star athlete at Bellarmine. So you look at those kind of things, and whether not as a parent or, again, just a friend or a family member, to do that, I mean, that's a big deal. Because his kids, his boys are always going to remember that, you know, and that's a big thing for them growing up and developing themselves and becoming adults and eventually, you know, having kids and values and morals and, you know, what's important to them in terms of prioritizing just life. So that's a big deal for our youth to have those role models. And I think for me, and again, getting back to people that really were role models for me, because I mean, there were times in my life when I was young, as I mentioned, and it's been reported out, I was a teenage father, so it was difficult, didn't have that father figure on a regular basis to give me that input. So it was a little bit more difficult for me. And in my family, you know, like a lot of the families, you know, we don't have that support, and and really the understanding of how important education is in college. And I kind of had to learn that on my own because my family, they're hardworking, but college wasn't important. That just wasn't a big deal. And they didn't understand the importance of it. So, put myself through college, going to night school for several years, a couple of decades, it seemed like. But I think that was a priority for my kids who saw that and the importance of education and knowing that even though I couldn't afford a private education for them, they still went to public school and did well. They're all college graduates, and 2 of them have their masters, and so they've done well for themselves. But I think it's because the parents were there and involved in their life, just like Eddie is for his sons and his daughter. But that's important. Maybe not so much mom and dad or Uncle Vance, but just us as community members and what La Raza means to our youth to provide that leadership and role model for our youth that are not privileged enough to have that. So it's always been to Eddie's comment, priority for me in terms of the community partnership. And he mentioned my career, and I've been very fortunate, and I think a lot of it goes back to just hard work. Because when I was a teenager when I graduated from high school on a Thursday, I was pounding nails as a carpenter on a Monday. So I understand what hard work is. And back then, if I remember right, and I do, it was, you don't get paid vacation, you don't work, you don't get paid, and family to support, and it's a difficult life. And it's a life that many lead. And, that's, again, going back to the importance of education. So I think my work ethic was very, very important to me, and my grandfather always instilled that in me, that you need to work hard, respect the people you work with and for, and being professional, and all those things that were simple, but yet I thought very important to me as a young man. And I think that's kind of what got me not only up the ranks, but the ability to move laterally in this department. And it's a great department. We have a lot of leaders. We had a police graduation academy today that we talked about that. We had Lou Covarrubias, who was a prior chief, that spoke today. And he was with us, just like he rose up through the ranks, and he became a chief. And he was the first Latino that led this department. And again, for me, it was just work ethics. I think, because I didn't have a mentor in the department. Matter of fact, when I was a reserve officer, as Eddie mentioned, in 1984, when he was, sophomore? 8th grade, I'm sorry. I remember I didn't know anybody going through the police department, or because nobody in my family were in law enforcement. And I remember riding with a few people, because back then you just pick people to ride with. And I remember riding with this one officer as a reserve, going through night school to become a reserve officer at different levels, and that's just part of the night school or their academy. And riding with an officer who mentioned, it was early on, he said, Larry, I'm not really sure this is a good career for you. I don't know if you're really cut out for this, so basically you may want to just stay a carpenter. And I always remember that I think, because of my drive, I think my work ethic, I said, I think I'm going to try to prove him wrong, because this is what I want to do. Which eventually I did, and I think that's, again, I always remember that. And I always think that was a big part of me trying to, again, just do well in my career, and someday, just be the best officer that I can. I mean, I had no aspirations to become anything more than maybe a supervisor like a sergeant. But the higher you go, we see in our department, you have more ability and opportunity to make change. And that's important in different ways. You have a lot of opportunities to make change in different units, but as you go up in rank, you have a broader perspective of things, which is important for us that want to make change for the better, in partners with the different organizations that are out here in order to make our community safer and to improve the quality of life for our citizens, and all the things that are important to us as police officers. So I think that was huge. Youth is important to me, and I keep mentioning that, but there's a lot of programs that we developed, whether our Youth Leadership Academy, Team Kids, We're starting a program called Behind the Badge with a nonprofit over at Andrew Hill High School. I mean, there's a lot of things that I think, well, whatever we can do, even from a public safety, law enforcement perspective, I think that's important for us to still find the time, that little space and niche that we can still provide those kind of leaderships and be mentors for our youth. The PAL program, matter of fact, I know Captain Mata's probably going to go out there pretty soon because our officers are challenging or playing some of the PAL athletes tonight over at PAL Stadium. So it's those kind of things that we've always looked to really enhance our partnerships with our youth, because they're our future. So, partnerships with, as I mentioned, with Victor, he's been a mentor of mine as well, in terms of what he stands for and his ability to lead not only La Raza, but just to be a voice for the community, always has been. And I've met him several times just to get his opinion on and take and feedback on various things. And I think his opinion is extremely valuable to me, whether it's his personally or just from a community leader perspective. So it's always important for us to listen, whether in whatever rank we are, but it's important for us to listen. Eddie just stepped down, but again, it's 30 years for me. I've had a great career. I've been very fortunate. And again, the higher you go in rank, the more opportunity you have to make, the ability to make change, more responsibilities. But once you hit that send button and accept it, you got to understand the obligations, and I have. But just like some of the leadership books, you got to have the right people on the bus. And I was fortunate that Eddie was one of my partners, and I knew his, again, ability and capability to lead, and our relationship is a big part of that level. That was, to me, a natural pick. And we are lockstep. I mean, we do get along not only very well, but when we do disagree, we talk it out, we get things to the point where to some agreement, and I can guarantee you he's going to be a great leader for this city and this organization. And I think once the interim position is hopefully done and he becomes the permanent, I mean, there's a lot of things that he has and in place that I think his value to the organization and us is going to be second to none. So I think you're very fortunate to have him as an assistant chief and soon to be interim chief and hopefully permanent. So again, with that, my time's up, and 30 years is 30 years, and the last few years for us as an organization has been extremely difficult, and it's not a secret. And some of our elected officials, I mean, we've had various discussions, including Dave Cortese, about just the importance of public safety in general, and us, not us, but just law enforcement itself. And I don't want to say caught in the middle, but the things that were going on the last few years have been very difficult, not only for us to provide core service, but really retention-wise, but really for our community. I mean, it had an effect on our community when you start losing people, especially when we're reflective of the community, and those people that have lived here became officers that have left. It was very difficult for us, especially, again, with dwindling numbers for the 10th largest city in the United States. It's a difficult task. And, but I think it's not just because of what I or we've done. It's more of a broader perspective, I think, with all of us, our elected officials, our community leaders, our community itself, in terms of their ability to call and see suspicious activity, that they do report that we were able to solve crimes. Our solvability rate is one of the highest in the nation, for example, in our violent crimes and homicide unit, because we have that partnership with the community. We always have. Yeah, it's not perfect, and I'm sure there are things we can do better. We're always looking for ways to make it better. But we're fortunate, and you look at any other major city, I mean, their solvability rate, or they have the high homicide rates or violent crimes, and we're fortunate not to have that because of the caliber of officers that we have that are part or grew up in this city. And hopefully we can get them back. I know the mayor and our city leaders now and the council are working very, very hard to make that happen and get some resolution at that level to eventually get some of our former officers to come back that still live in San Jose, are part of the community, and bring them back here. So it'll happen. I think we're on the road to that direction, I believe. So we've kind of waded through some very rough waters, and I think we're starting to go in the right direction. So I feel good about leaving. I wish we had the retention thing fixed already, and we have all the officers back, but it'll get there. It'll get there. So with that, I just want to say again, the time that I've spent. I mean, San Jose will always be my home. Always has been, and my mom, who still lives down the street here off McLaughlin, and I mean, my roots are here. Always will be, and whenever I can and I'm invited back, I'd love to come back and be part of La Raza and the community and things that you've done, and please continue to do that. And I'll be an hour away in Tracy, so I'm still going to look to our city and county leaders and people that I respect and what you guys do and things that maybe I can bring over to Tracy, in some capacity. Different, they're a growing community, but they're very similar. I don't want to say very similar to San Jose, but they're very diverse. A large Latino population, and a lot of things that we've done here as a large city that I think we can incorporate there on a different scale, but I think that would be very beneficial to them and the community and that relationship. So again, with that, I just want to say thank you very much. It's been a great ride for me. And we mentioned that today to the recruits and new recruits that enjoy the ride, because it happens really, really quickly in terms of the next thing you know, it's 30 years. And a lot of us that have been through that, in either retirement and looking for the next phase of your life, I still got a few more years over there, and then I'll be able to kind of maybe at least retire at some point. But again, I just want to thank you for the opportunity, Victor and everyone else.
Volando con la brisa va, volando con la brisa va, volando con las blancas nubes, con las nubes blancas que vienen y van. Sus manos se abran al pasar, sus manos se abran al pasar, sus manos como dos palomas, palomas de paz. Y la gente,